mentioned, and it's a Supreme Court case you may have heard about flags, flying flags from city flagpoles. And because we have a policy related to that, it is relevant to what the city does. This case had been awaited and generally assumed it would come out the way it did. It's called Shurtleff versus City of Boston. Boston has a city hall with a big park out in front, and the park is incontrovertibly a public forum. People show up at the park, they can say and do anything. They have 3 flagpoles. They fly American flag, a state flag, and a city flag. But the city flagpole, they allow people who are holding festivities in the park to request to fly a temporary flag for a few hours on the 3rd flagpole. So for 12 years, Boston had approved every request, hundreds of them, and the only one they turned down was Shurtleff, the plaintiff, because he wanted to fly a religious flag. And there was no written policy, which is really kind of bizarre. And Boston felt somehow, somebody in the staff felt that they would be violating the Establishment of Religion Clause, which is the one that says that a state shall not establish religion, as opposed to a state shall not discriminate against religion. And the court said, well, that's not really the issue. You have created a public forum because you've never turned down a request except this one. And if you've created a public forum, then you cannot discriminate against people based on the content of their speech. And particularly, you can't discriminate because someone wants to say something religiously based or fly a flag that has religious connotations. We knew this case was coming along at the Supreme Court when we worked on the Gilroy policy for commemorative flags that you adopted 3 months ago. We believe our policy is okay because we made efforts not to create a public forum. We do have a written policy. We do not allow certain categories of speech because the city determines by adopting the policy that we as the city do not wish to express our opinions on certain subjects, including politics, religion, commercial speech, and including offensive or discriminatory speech. So certain kinds of flags are banned, but that's not a discrimination against any particular group. It's pursuant to a written policy, and every request will come to the council for discretionary action. So we don't think this policy affects our ability to enforce the commemorative flag policy. We knew this case was coming out. We expected it to come out the way it did. And although ultimately it was kind of a simple case, but there were a whole bunch of opinions where the justices fight with each other about how to analyze it. If anybody's interested in the minutia of analyzing First Amendment things, I commit this case to you. It's interesting to read. But the net result was pretty clear. They had created a public forum. We have worried about that with the city's website also. We worried about that with banners on First Street a few years ago. All these issues arise. The social media policy that we adopted carefully avoids establishing a public forum as well, because once you do establish a public forum, you can't censor it. Anyway, that concludes my report.